Leinster and La Rochelle, folks. Champions Cup final this weekend. It's a repeat of last year's final, albeit in Ireland rather than France. So that may make things slightly more tasty if you're a Leinster supporter. But anyway, we're going to go through the lineups, some stats, predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this final is going to go out. Obviously, Leinster looking for revenge after last year's final where they lost it 24-21. It's a wee while ago, and I've watched a fair bit of rugby since then, but I seem to remember Leinster not able to score tries, whereas La Rochelle bagged like 3 of them, and La Rochelle having a lot of ball. Leinster having to make a lot of tackles in that game, so they'll be, I guess, looking to up things physically at home and actually show something about what that kind of forward pack and back line can do, man, because there's stars studded throughout both of these sides, to be fair. For Leinster, they have kept things relatively stable from the side that pretty comfortably beat Toulouse, 41-22. They have got Robbie Henshaw back, but remember, he played last week in the URC anyway. But in terms of Champions Cup action, he is a returnee, having missed out on the 23 last time through injury. Also, James Lowe makes an appearance after having a bit of time out as well. He hasn't played, I think, since early April. That means Jimmy O'Brien shifts from the left wing to the right wing, and that guy has been dangerous. Like, speaking of stats in the Champions Cup, it's been a great chance for him to show what he can do, especially in the Rugby World Cup year. But top guy for clean breaks, top guy for run meters. Like, he's a proper handful, is old Jimmy O'Brien. And it means Jordan Lama drops out of the 23, unfortunately for him. But such as playing at Leinster, I guess, it's always going to be very, very competitive, especially in these kind of crucial games. But I mean, the forward pack's the same. It is Porter, Sheehan, and Furlong in the front row. And I mean, Sheehan, ball in hand, you guys know I love watching that guy run. I think last week he ended up with 70-odd run meters, which was more than the other 3 starting hookers had combined in terms of their run meters. So, Dan Sheehan is certainly a handful. Maloney and Ryan, your locks, with Ryan being captain, then Doris van der Fleer and Conan. Pretty useful back row. I think van der Fleer is like the top try scorer for this competition. Tends to bag a few from mauls, so that's certainly going to be a potential option for them to take. Backs-wise, Gibson Park and Ross Byrne, 9 and 10. And for Ross Byrne, this is another kind of big old game where he needs to put his hand up. Again, I'm thinking with one eye on the World Cup, but obviously Leinster have been chasing down that next star for a long time. But good chance with no Sexton, that being one of the big changes from a Leinster point of view from that last year's final. With no Sexton available, Ross Byrne gets a chance to lead the side from the get-go and basically prove some of his doubters wrong. Henshaw, like I mentioned, is back. He's alongside Ringrose, so that's a pretty familiar partnership. O'Brien and Lowe, and then Keenan at the back. In terms of replacements, Ronan Kelleher is kind of back again from a Champions Cup point of view, but he played in the URC semi-final the other day. Healy Alatoa, Jason Jenkins, Ryan Baird. Ryan Baird, we hope he gets on. Not too early, but relatively early. Kind of hopefully see him in some space. That'd always be entertaining, but maybe not in the final. Probably not the game for it. Luke McGrath, Kieran Frawley, and Charlie Ngatai drops to the bench after a pretty good showing in recent weeks, man. Charlie Ngatai has been in really good form. The kind of form that saw him get that kind of 1 All Black cap way back in the day. For La Rochelle, it is a pretty familiar story in terms of the side that beat Exeter again pretty comfortably, 47-28. Neither of semi-finals were close. It's a pretty similar side to that side that played a few weeks ago. The main change being Dante coming in at 12 and Fav dropping to the bench with Teddy Toma having an injury. He drops out of the 23 entirely. So it's Warde Bugarit and Antonio. That front row battle is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Like, Antonio was on fire in that semi-final from what I can remember. So him up against Andrew Porter. Even if you don't love a scrum, that one should be kind of worth the price of admission because those guys are both proper, international top-level guys in their respective positions. Suzzy and Skelton in the locks. And again, Skelton, like with that massive physical presence of his, is such a handful. He seems to play so much better for La Rochelle than we ever see him play for the Wallabies. I don't know what it is. But they use him really well at La Rochelle. So the Leinster forwards are certainly going to have their hands full with him. Budnet comes in at 6. Botia is at 7. And Aldred is at 8. Aldred's like just that massive kind of work rate guy. He's the top carrier of this competition, which does not surprise me whatsoever because he does the same thing at international level. And Botti as your kind of danger man there at 7. Remember, he's that kind of midfielder come loose forward. Genuinely can do both at kind of an elite level. So, yeah, any chance that guy gets at space, he's going to take it. He's got wheels and he's got absolute power, doesn't he? He is a real unit of a man. So, yeah, very, very dangerous looking forward pack from La Rochelle. Kurbalo and Astoy, that's your 9-10 combo. Kurbalo, another guy who's on fire. Phenomenal shift. One of the top try scorers in this competition as well. If you give him half a gap, he is certainly going to take it too. Astoy is the top point scorer of this competition. Dante, as I mentioned, is back. Settini is in the 13 jumper. Rule and Lades, kind of a couple of your guys who never met their potential in South Africa, but have been absolutely phenomenal for La Rochelle. Both absolute danger men, and then Dulon, very kind of steady presence and danger man of his own right there at 15. The bench is pretty much the same. It's interesting they've gone with a 6-2 split, which is the same as what Toulouse did, which kind of came to bite them when they had an early backline injury, which saw Dupont kind of playing out of position. Alton Delan will be up against some kind of familiar faces. He's on the bench as well. Laveau is on the bench. Colombe, Sclavi. It's just Jules Favre, who's the guy who started in that semi-final, who's dropped. But when I say dropped, I mean dropped to the bench. So I guess to make way for Dante. But yeah, fingers crossed from a La Rochelle point of view, they don't get any early injuries. And it's especially to those backs, because like I mentioned, they don't want that disruption. But it is a bit of a risk when you go 6-2. But you do get that additional bit of pressure up front. It's pretty similar side to played in the final last year for them as well. Obviously a different 9-10 combo. I think it was Ihaya West was running the show from them last year. But yeah, Astoy, that's probably an upgrade of Ihaya West, if I am honest. Interestingly, predictions-wise, they've got this one relatively comfortably going to Leinster. The bookies here in NZ have got Leinster by 8 points, which is relatively comfortable. And the Rugby Forecast algorithm gives Leinster 91% chance of winning this one. I believe they said 16 points. So they are absolutely huge favourites. There's a lot of money going on Leinster, I would imagine. But I would be loath to write La Rochelle off, man. They have been, under Ronan O'Gara, and even before that, they've been a team playing some good rugby for quite some time. They are reigning champions in third final in a row. For a reason. If you guys are in the States and want to watch this and things like Super Rugby as well, will be on Flow Rugby, so I'll put Flow Rugby's link down in the description for you guys in the US if you want to check it out. But what do you guys reckon? Can Leinster get that next star on their jersey, or can La Rochelle go back to back? You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.